This is Dr. David Pomeroy, your host on ADHD Focus. I wanted to remind you that the show is not intended to be a recommendation for diagnosis or treatment of any condition for any specific person. Please consult your mental health professional or doctor managing your ADHD or mental health issues about any diagnosis or treatment-related information that you hear on the show. Refer your ADHD provider to the show if he or she would like more information. Today I'm going to be talking with a man who is an executive function coach. Nic McLoughlin is founder of Master ADHD Now. Add a .com on that and have his website. He has coached a number of people, 1,000 people or more over the past 20 years, helping people increase their productivity, decrease their wasted time, all those kinds of things that those of us with ADHD have a problem putting together. So, Nic, welcome to the program.
Hey, David, thank you so much for having me on. It's great to meet you.
Today, we're going to talk about habits, which I know that's a nasty 6-letter word, but with ADD, but those are the things that help us save time.
It can be.
About them. Yeah, if things are routine. We're going to work down to talk about Nic's gamified habits, how to get habits and creating them, following them into a game. So we're going to start with boundaries, how do habits help boundaries, and boundaries are setting limits.
Great place to start.
Yeah. How do you look at the benefits of boundaries, Nic?
Well, a lot of people usually come to me thinking that they need to take some new action or that they're doing something wrong, but a lot of the time I will give them pretty much everything they need to know on the first session with how to handle their ADHD. But the majority of the sessions after that, funny enough, are actually exploring deeper into their boundaries or their lack of boundaries or just their foundations in general. Like we will find out that, they don't really have a set of principles that they stand by. So we create boundaries and principles that help them so that when I give them tactics, they'll know exactly how to stick with them and use them to their advantage instead of just having something to use that's almost novel and then to not know how to use it entirely after that.
Yeah, it's easy to get into the details and not see the overview. If you don't have a target, you don't know where you're going, and you probably won't get there.
Yeah, like you could be given $1 billion, and that doesn't mean you know how to use it or invest it. It could be gone. Like so many people that win the lottery end up losing it really quickly because they don't know how to. They may have made money, but they don't know how to invest it or spend wisely or use it properly and be educated on it. And funny enough, I think it's really important that people are also educated on learning about themselves as much as they want to learn about a new process and how to really strengthen their foundations and boundaries.
Yeah, I think that the getting to know oneself in terms of what you believe in, what values do you hold, and then how do you set the boundaries around your time, whether it's work time or personal time, so that you can live within those values, support them, and at the same time,
absolutely,
I guess, move forward. One of the things I think that's a big issue with people with ADD, certainly has been for me, is hear about an interesting organization or something support, work in. Yeah, I'd like to do that. And, oh yeah, it's just one meeting a month. Well, then there's preparing for the meeting and there's calling people in between. And, and it's a lot more.
Yeah, it's usually a lot more than they think it is, too.
Yeah. And also
what can seem like a really neat idea, organization, whatever, you get into it and think, well, I'm really not interested in this so much. There's this one over here because it's new, and get into the maintenance of it. That's not the new exciting stuff.
Yeah, I actually just spoke with a client today. We've been trying to figure out why she's been having so much struggle, with her emails. She has to send emails and respond to them, like just so many every day. Mm-hmm. And then I got really specific with her, and we found out that she thought that she was having an email issue, but what we found out was that she was actually being distracted by going down a rabbit hole, and things would come up during the process of answering her emails. So she took it as there's something wrong with, my process of sending emails. But what we found out was that what's actually happening is you don't have boundaries or a set of principles on your foundations that make it so that you don't get distracted. Mm-hmm. So, when these kind of things come up, what system do you have? And that's the most important question, is to ask yourself, what is my daily system? Do I even have one?
So when you talk about foundation, that's the daily system, or is that more the underlying part, kind of how you view the world and interact with it?
So the daily system is a combination of many things, but the foundation is the very, very core of who you are and how you can use your system to your advantage. Because you can have just a system of actions, but without a system of foundational support and principles and boundaries, then, those actions won't really last so long, and you'll never know why. So that's why it's important to have a great balance of both.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the boundaries on, maybe it's, okay, I'm not going to spend more than an hour on email, or no, I'm not going to even start with email first thing in the morning. I want to make sure I get these few things done, because email, almost by definition, is emails or rabbit holes waiting to fall into.
Anything online, I feel like it's just begging to be a rabbit hole at some point.
Yeah. And I'm not sure where this quote came from, but I think it's a great thing to keep in mind when you look at, that'd be interesting to do, is the quality of yes is proportional to the quantity of no.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a very good point.
Remembering that it's okay to say no, and you also don't have to say yes right away.
Is this one of those trick questions where we find out that the quote was actually by you, and you're actually that brilliant?
No, definitely not. Definitely not. I ran across it, I don't know how many years ago, and I just thought that was just major.
No, that's great.
Have that
very true.
On sticky notes on my phone and everywhere else, so I remember it.
I love that.
And I think I know I've been tempted to say, okay, I'll join this or I'll do that. And then realize I don't really have the time to do that. Where am I going to do it? I don't have haven't thought through and have them right in my mind, or for me, somewhere I can look at and say, hold it, where are you going to put this in the time? And that's not as simple as a calendar. Certainly a start.
That's true. And, I remember it really impacted me. It changed my life when I'm very entrepreneurial. I've owned many businesses, and a lot of them failed because I didn't know how to manage my time, or, I would struggle with procrastination. And, so once I got it all together, it completely changed. And one thing that made it shift so quickly was just realizing, I was studying all of the, wealthy people or successful people financially, or people that are just happy in life and they have a great daily system. I was wondering what they did differently than what I did. And of course, there are many aspects to that, but one of them was that they value their time more than anything, more than their money even. And as Robert Kiyosaki says from Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he talks about how there are there's good debt and bad debt. And normally, and he even explains this in his book, how like the middle class and below, like what I normally am, is, we think there's only debt and you want to stay away from it. It's bad. But what he says is you want to invest in good debt and stay away from bad debt, So there are things that drain your money or your time and things that multiply it. So if you were to, for example, like when I first hired my first coach, I had only $500 in my bank account. And it cost that much to hire them and go to this like webinar, like this big seminar. It was a big seminar. And I thought, I only have enough money to survive or to change my life right now. And it's costing me time and money to not go. And I have faith that I can grow there and multiply my time and money by being smarter and more productive. So I did it. I took the leap. I said, I'm going to do it. I went, and I ended up making $5,000 the next month because of what I learned about myself and what I learned how I learned how to master myself. And this was at a time where I wasn't making hardly anything at all. And that was because I learned about how to manage time and the importance of my time. And the way I like to think of it is that the world's currency is not money. It's the air in your lungs and the time on your timeline. And, you can trade it, but there is an end point to it. So I would really value time for that matter.
And it's, I think, with ADHD getting into time blindness, you just get going and really into this project. Or for me, I'm writing a report or letter, and I'll look up, it's an hour and a quarter later. And I'm thinking, how did it take me so long to do that? It's a great letter, but I've just put so much into it, and then realized there's only 24 hours in this day, and I need to have dinner, and I need to be able to sleep, and I'd like some time for me to just chill, and that all gets scrunched together. And I think it's, from what I hear, so many of my patients say, well, after work and then get home in the evening and kids and helping them homework and one thing or another, and then time to talk with my partner, and then I want some time for me.
There's so much involved in that.
That's dangerous. Scrolling your phone, that's dangerous.
Agreed.
Falling into anywhere on the screen. And for me, reading is a little safer, but then I get interested in the book and the time still goes away.
Especially if it's something productivity. If it's about productivity and it's applicable to my life somehow and bettering something to help me save time, I'm all into it. And I'll convince myself so much, it's okay, I can go another 5 minutes. I just need to listen to this. And I'll keep saying that over and over until an hour goes by, and it's just so frustrating. That's actually an effect of, at moments you may realize, you wonder why you do things like that. And it's because, one of the reasons is because you don't have the clear set of boundaries, and principles in that area. So it goes hand in hand.
Yeah, and definitely with ADHD, the primary direction your attention goes is what's interesting right then. And the book is, or the next chapter, or the next episode in Netflix, the next little video thing in TikTok or YouTube Shorts or any of those, instead of remembering I'm doing this presentation at 1 o'clock tomorrow, I've got to be fresh and well rested, and I have to get up at 6. If you forget that at 11 and now it's 12:30,
yeah,
you blew it. And remembering at 10 o'clock the next night how tough it was to get through that day before, well, that's not now. That was earlier today.
Yeah.
So much in the now in terms of what we do with our time. So looking at habits and routines, that's one way I think we can help support the boundaries we want to do and have so we can support our values.
Exactly. Couldn't agree more.
And one, in terms of getting lost in, whether it's the book or Netflix or anything, phone reminders are well and good, but we have so many of them, I think it's easy to ignore them. I'll forget that I've got this bedtime setting on my phone that automatically makes Do Not Disturb happen at 10. Well, then, if I set an alarm at 10:15 to do something, I can't hear it. So,
yeah.
It seemed like a great idea when I set up the bedtime thing, but I don't remember that probably 3 days later, much less 2 months later, and can't figure out how come that alarm didn't work.
Yeah.
But something...
It can get pretty hard to figure out.
Right. Go back and through all the steps. I can't remember what I did in terms of setting something up. I'm not sure how to get there again. But having a visual cue, so I suggest put a light on a timer, and that goes off at 9:45.
Oh, yeah.
That light goes off. That grabs you more.
That's a beautiful point, because there's actually a lot of senses you can play with. Mm-hmm. Even aside from light, you can use any of your senses. If you can put anything on a timer, you can get a plug that plugs into the wall, and it has a timer on it, so it can stop or start things. You can have your air conditioner go on at a certain time, so it gets really cold at a certain time. That makes you want to get up and turn it off. There's timed lights. There's you can ask your roommate or your fiance or whoever to start cooking a meal at a certain time, or you can have someone text you at a certain time. There's just so many ways to get alerts and cues. So that's a brilliant point that you brought up about using a cue.
It's something that breaks me out of the trance of the reading or whatever it is I'm doing. So I have a realization of, that much time has passed, and this is the time I have to kind of start winding things up. I think for most of us with ADHD, having another light go off 15 minutes later, that's the one I have to really make sure now it's getting serious.
My fiance was actually telling me that she used to have this lamp that was really cool, where basically she'd turn off all the lights in her apartment except for this one lamp. It's like, I forgot what they're called, but basically it acts as the sun setting, and once it goes down, all the lights, like there's no light in your apartment, and you just take that as, okay, I'm sitting in the dark now, I think I should go to bed. So you can set that for any time you want.
And I think people first began using them as sunrise lights. You have it so it gets brighter and brighter in your room, so your bedroom is getting brighter. It's easier to to wake up. But the sunset function is definitely handy on that.
Yeah, they're like magic. They're awesome.
Mm-hmm. So with habits, if you get a routine that you follow, that all the steps in it, the last step is you get in bed, so now you can sleep. Whether it's okay, check that the dog has food and the lights are out here and the door is locked here, and then you brush your teeth, all those little steps, so that then the sequence goes, it gets to be a learned pattern.
Oh, yeah. That's what I love most about habits. You know, a lot of people get very frustrated with goals and having to-do lists because a lot of times people don't reach them, or they set expectations and they don't reach them at the way they wanted or at the time they wanted. Mm-hmm. And it gets really frustrating and they attack themselves and it gets hard and they feel guilty. So even when you accomplish a goal, you know, you still don't feel good because you're like, okay, on to the next one. I should have reached it anyways. And then if you don't, then you just feel like crap. So it's kind of a lose-lose situation, and it's kind of something that we're all guilty of, is being cold and robotic, you know. So that's why I like to just say, and instead, you know, my intention is to do this, you know, because if I reach it, great. That was my intention to do it, carry on top. But if I don't, it's not a big deal because, you know, it was just my intention to do it, but that's not setting any expectations for myself. I'm admitting I don't really know what it's supposed to look like to get there, but I intend to get there somehow. And great things about habits is once you have them, you know, give yourself 3-4 weeks. You're not even thinking at all. You're just doing. So that's why it's so important for that first month just to go all out on just the habits you really want, you know?
Yeah. And
so you don't have to put so much mental energy into it.
Yes, I think that's where it save the energy of having to think and get in bed. And did I remember to give the dog water? Did I remember to do this or that? And if you have that pattern, and yet I can't start a habit if I'm looking at, see, it's got 6 parts to it. Just one.
Yeah. And it's difficult. I mean, I don't think it's hard. You don't want to really live a life where you're just always adding more things to do, you know, aside from like, if you don't have any support from yourself with the habits. The great thing about a habit is, like I said, it's almost automatic. You just do it and you don't think about it. But when you don't build habits, you just always have more and more things to do, and a lot of them don't get done, and it just gets really difficult to deal with, you know.
And I think the challenge, particularly with ADD and habits, is if there's something out of routine. Okay, you go on vacation, so now you're not in your workday routine, and that's nice on vacation, but then you get back and it's, okay, remember to do your 6 different things, and that's where building in some kind of a cue to do it, even if it's the night you're back from vacation, the next day is work, something on your calendar before the bedtime routine starts on the just a list of, this is my routine, maybe even walk through it and get that pattern going in your mind again. But
exactly.
Vacation, or it's, you know, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's also important, like you were saying earlier, to gamify things. You know, I like to, with my clients, I like to gamify certain things that they really need help with, especially if they're really struggling with it. You know, we will come up with, there's 3 kinds of people that I have found in terms of gamification, and what can help them the most with their habits, or even tasks in general and projects that are really difficult. So, and it's only one aspect to it. There's a lot more to it, but this is one thing I do.
Sure.
Is I'll find out if they're either someone that's motivated by rewards, motivated by pain, or motivated just in general by just finishing it. So believe it or not, there's some people that don't really care about the rewards or the pain. They just want it done and they just want to figure it out, and then the people that are motivated by rewards, will come up with something fun to give them and say, hey, let's give you pieces of this, let's get you daily small rewards and build up to a big one, and people that are motivated by pain, well, that comes down to taking away. You have to give them something, that they either don't normally have or have them stop doing something they normally do, and then say, cool, if you don't do this, then we're gonna take this away as a punishment. Or you can't go wrong with having them talk to a friend to hold them accountable to, say, hey, so if I don't do this big project by the end of the week, I'm going to pay you $100, because nobody wants to do that.
Right.
So, and it's cost me so much in my life to procrastinate on things. And I would, definitely more than $100. It's cost me so much. And so it's really important to understand which type you are.
Yeah. And with ADHD, two of the things that come into that the motivation of where our attention goes is usually to something of interest, or, I deserve some ice cream. It's been a hard day. Or worse, I should have a drink now to relax. So there's the reward one. And the other is, oh yeah, that report's, that's a week away. 3 days. And then, that's due tomorrow. Man, there's the motivation, and you power through that. Now you end at 2 a.m., so the pain is also paying the next day for it.
Oh my goodness. Yes. That's just inherent in people with ADHD. Like I have ADHD myself, so my whole childhood was just waiting to the last minute and then procrastinating to the point of, oh my goodness, I have to write an 11-page paper by tomorrow. And I just find a way to do it, or, it's just, and it works, so it's not healthy, but it works.
Yeah. I think there's a big aspect of procrastination that is something we learn. Okay, in school this is due, and you can pull it off the night before, even in the morning on the bus on the way to school. But you can do that in third grade, but it doesn't work in 11th grade, or maybe you were able to pull it off all the way through high school. It isn't going to work in college if you have to write a paper on the 300 pages you were supposed to read in the past week.
Oh,
so somewhere along the line, you run into that. Oops.
I remember there was a time where in high school, I had to read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and this is the last time I ever did something like that, where I was supposed to read that whole book, the whole semester or a quarter, and I didn't do it because I just could not sit and read. I had such bad ADD. So I watched the movie instead a couple days before, and I wrote the paper based on that. And it seemed great because it's so helpful, right? It's just, wow, just a little over an hour, I can read an entire book, right? Well, the movies are always different than the books, so my teacher immediately noticed. And that was one of the first times I realized, you know what, I think I want to find out how to do this. Like one of the greatest questions I've ever asked myself was, how can I figure a way out to do this, but not in a way where it's out of uncertainty, but where I'm certain first of the goal that I want, of the intention I want to have. So I'll say, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm deciding I'm going to read this entire book. Great. Now that I've already decided, I'm not going to waver on that. So all my energy can just completely go into finding a way to make it happen. Whereas the other version of me or the other version of ourselves that do this would be teeter-tottering between, I don't know if I should do this. I want to do this, but I'm not sure if I can. It's a confidence thing. And then teeter-tottering towards, okay, now how do I do it? It's just not supportive. And the way I like to explain it as an analogy is, imagine you're hanging off a cliff just by the ends of your fingertips, and there's two people that come up to you, and neither of them know how to help you at all. And one of them says, I don't know how to help you. Crap. Should I do this? How do I do this? I'm not sure what to do. I'll try. Whereas the second person says, hey, listen, I have no idea how to help you, but I've decided I'm going to make sure you get up here. I'm going to do everything I can. How can I do this? And they think to themselves, how can I do this? Which person would you rather invest in to save your life?
Yeah, the person who's determined to do it rather than someone's focusing on, I can't do this. I don't know. There isn't going to be a way.
Exactly. And that's the cool thing I want people to take away from this part of the conversation is, if you're worrying about how to do something and how to figure something out that you just do not know how to do, you just know that you don't have to know, because it just comes down with a decision. That's all it comes down to. You either come to a moment where you finally get fed up and you just decide to make things happen and find a way to make things happen, or you just decide in the moment before all the pain and you just skip all that, save yourself tons of years or months or weeks, and you just say, I'm just going to do this. So if you know something is right for you in your gut, tackle it. Just decide, I'm going to tackle this thing. It doesn't mean don't put thought into it and don't plan, but it means to acknowledge, is this something that deserves to be, have certainty?
Yeah, that your goal, this is what you want. If you decide this is what I really need to do or want, hopefully it's not, I want to figure out how to drink some more alcohol this week. But
yeah,
my goal is I want to get a good performance review. Okay, then I need to get my work in on time. Okay, what can I do to schedule that? And if the ideas are just spinning around the worry, but what if I can't find it? Where do I look? Then finding a coach to help, I think, put things in perspective. That's the person that may not know exactly how to write the reports or whatever, but can help
you can
with the clues.
And you can learn from someone else's mistakes, as Warren Buffett says.
Yeah.
So it's very important. And just know that, one thing I like to tell myself, or a lot of times I'll catch myself saying, how do I do this, without deciding? And I have this saying to myself of, if I ask, how do I do this, before deciding I'm going to do it, if it's something that's good for me and, leads to a good goal, then I know that I've already failed, because it's not going to help me and that path is not going to go where I want it to go. So to correct myself, I say, okay, great. And I'm just going to ask myself a simple question first. The very first step is this something worthy of being certain? Is this something that is healthy, that is going to take me to a better place in life, be of service to others? Yeah. Well, then great. I've decided I'm doing it. Now, what do I do? How do I do this? And what's great about that is it opens up this vast amount of just incredible opportunities that you don't even realize you have. It's like opening a vault. It's like there's a vault in your brain, and it's just waiting for you to be certain. And once you're certain, and you ask it how, it'll open up, and you'll have all these new ideas. Like I had to find out like a marketing plan. So I wrote down, I said, okay, I've decided I'm going to have 100 ideas and so on how to market myself. So let's write down what are 100 ideas I can make? And I just wrote them down. What can I do? How can I make this happen? And you can't think past the first 10. So you think, how can I think of more? How can I do this? You've already decided. You don't have to waver. You don't have to worry about going back on your word. You've already decided. So all you do is push forward from that point. You can't go backwards because you've decided, which is great.
I think one of the big strengths that people with ADHD have is an associational mind. That is, we can pull things from memories, from what we heard someone say, something we read, what we saw on a show, whatever, and I've got to think of an idea here, and what's one idea? And then that may trigger another thought, and then you connect it to here and there, and we can get places that with more, I think, creativity, we come up with more ideas along the way than someone who is sequential and has to do this step, and then this step, and then this step. And I liken it to if you're climbing up a mountain, there's this mountain between you and the goal, or these two people and the goal. And the sequential person has to take one step at a time going up the mountain before they can see the goal from the top. The associational person is kind of going off in this direction and here, and it's like they're going not up the mountain, but it may be around, and then it's over this way. They end up with a perspective that shows them the goal, the target, but they haven't had to, they can't do the step-by-step way. Your associations take in different places, and you get to that target sometime sooner, but you have all these other ideas on the way.
Yeah.
And it may be that you read a book, you watch a YouTube video about it, to get more knowledge on the area, what your goal is. That gives you some ideas, and then you can kind of riff off those and you spin into more and more. And I think most people with ADHD have this associational mind. Sometimes we don't even realize it's there. And other times it can go so fast. I know I don't recognize all the places I've been, or in my thoughts, or I can see them, but man, if I tried to explain it to somebody else, sequential, and say, well, I was here and here and here, way too much detail, and I have no idea how I got there. And
I feel like feel bad for a lot of my clients, and I'm the same way in this aspect where we, at a certain age of having ADHD, you've just learned to hear yourself and to stop talking at a point. It's almost like you can see a timer in your head of how long you've been talking and how long you need to stop talking, because we were so used to, I know for me, I'm so used to it. When I grew up, I'd talk and want to describe things and want to problem solve, and I would think all these little details really mattered and my side of the story and all that, but people would just zone out, or they wouldn't take it in or value it, and it would get frustrating. And I felt bad, like, oh, I feel like I'm just kind of boring them now, or so. Yeah, it's another reason to go back to being really intentional.
Yeah, the intentional keeping in mind where you're aiming for, the mindfulness of talking and or listening instead of trying to talk so much. I know one guy who has ADD, his wife does not. If they're at a gathering of people and she is watching him and she can see you're talking too much and you're getting out of hand, she just reaches up and kind of pinches her right earlobe a couple times. And getting in his line of sight, that's his cue that he's got to cut back. So that's where that essentially accountability partner can give you some ideas and
Absolutely, and
a boundary. So, what are some examples of a gamify? Someone's got okay, I have this report, paper, whatever, something you have to write, and it has a due date. So how do you gamify getting that paper done?
well, I mean, there's different aspects to that. You can, like I said earlier, you can find out first off, am I the kind of person who is motivated by rewards, pain, or just wants to get things done in general and isn't really affected by the first two that much? So I think that's the first thing you should ask yourself. And then from that point, you can kind of figure out what to do. And there's no rules. And that's the great thing is, all our lives we're told, that we need to be, quote, normal or, find out how to bend towards a certain way of living and, get fixed, somehow, but what a lot of neurotypical people don't understand is that our brains work differently. We are basically like the introverted people in an extroverted world or the left-handed people in a right-handed world. And it's like they see us, trying to fit this triangle peg through a square hole. And they just think, why aren't you trying harder? And
yeah,
and
right.
They don't have a clue that we're busting our butts already on this point. We're like, hey, I know you can't see the effort I'm putting in because all you see is the triangle not going into the square hole. Yeah. But trust me, I'm giving it everything I've got. So,
and that's, I think, where I know I can think, man, I'm putting a lot of effort into this. Yes, but I took a little extra time at dinner. Yes, I was reading some emails, and then I texted a few friends, and 9:30 at night, man, I've been putting a lot of effort into that. And I've been working half an hour, but I had 2 hours I was doing other things in that boundary. So I think most people with ADD work better when there's a reward.
Well, you'd be surprised, a lot of them
usually going to have the impact.
Yeah. I thought that for a long time, that it would only be pretty much rewards. But from what I've found, pain actually inspires people even more a lot of the time. But the people that usually like rewards are the ones that just don't like the negative feeling of pain, just so much so that they just don't even want to be part of it. They don't want any part of it. And, we're having ADHD, we're very sensitive emotionally to certain things. We have a strong issue with emotional regulation at times if we don't work on it. So we would rather just completely avoid something. So if the people that, are not motivated by pain, they'll just completely avoid the whole thing, just not to be a part of that. But a lot of times I found people actually do get motivated by the pain. And he'll want to go back and forth and say, I know usually I like a challenge. People that really like a challenge and say, I don't want to pay my friend $100 or I don't want to go and do jumping jacks with a wig on outside, if I lose this or whatever, whatever you come up with, those people will come to me and be like, I don't want to do that. But I get motivated by the pain. I'm like, well, that's exactly the point. You won't have to do that if you do this task. And we'll find a way to make it doable. And I would also say the second step of the gamification is finding out what's most doable but challenging. So you're not pushing yourself too much and creating too high of an expectation. Or on the other end, you're not going too easy on yourself. Like the Yerkes-Dodson law, I'm launching a YouTube show, and that's going to be one of my first videos on the Yerkes-Dodson law, basically on, using your stress to your advantage to hit a goal and get a certain performance, but you don't want to go too much, you don't want to go too little.
Yeah, if it's, yes, I'm going to do this report, well, that's a great goal, but you aren't going to just sit down at one point and write it all out. You have to make sure you've got a place you're going to do that, and you've got your computer that the battery's charged up or whatever, or you have a cord nearby, and then maybe just write down 3 things as part of an outline, or use a mind map type of program that can help you put down 3 ideas you think of, and then, then there's this one has 3 parts, and this is where that associational part comes out. So you can get this visual of the parts and all at once, because if you just write them, I don't see the association of the subpart on number 4 to number 1, or how it's going to flow. And that's where I like the visual mind mapping thing. One of the things I wanted to pick up on in the gamify, I think so many people think of, the pain is, okay, I'm going to take away that show, or you can't watch that TV show until you get it done, or I'm going to take away your Xbox or whatever. But if you haven't gotten it done, then you need to go out and do 25 jumping jacks on the deck, even though it's raining.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to think, I don't want to go outside when it's raining. Are you kidding me? And so that can be a motivator, and it's fun, it's funny, and yes, there's pain there.
Yeah. I actually even attempted to challenge myself to double gamify something, and I don't think that's supposed to be a word, but I use, because I love playing, Mario Kart with my fiance. Like, I just love playing it. Mm-hmm. So, I'm playing that, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to play this for a little bit, and then I can't finish this race. I have to put a pause on it. And I can't finish it until I go and do this other thing, and then I can do it. And that's gamifying something using games. So you can actually, and this stuff does not look normal to a neurotypical person. So, most people would judge and think, well, what the heck, you shouldn't be playing games at all. But the real question you should be asking yourself is this something that's actually going to get me to get the work done at a high quality, and a good pace, And if it does, then why not try it? Try it out.
Yeah. And I'm looking at, a 12-year-old, her job is to empty the dishwasher. And so that person may think, well, I don't have a goal for that. And if they don't have one in mind, what's the big deal if I don't empty the dishwasher or I don't do it now? Well, it's a big deal to your mom because she needs to clean things to be able to serve dinner. And she also has to have room in the dishwasher to put the pans and whatever else she used to cook dinner.
Yeah.
So
and
mom sees the reward, but I'll get to it. So almost need
I'm sure they'd see the reward once they realize there's no dinner.
Yeah. She just, natural consequences. She says, okay, here's your plate. She doesn't put the food on it, and it's a dirty plate. Well, why are you giving me a dirty one? Oh, the clean ones are all in the dishwasher.
Yeah, so
that's the pain.
That's exactly it. Using the pain. And, another good point of gamification is to add some sort of deadline or time limit, because it adds so much. When we know, it's very strange. It's almost like we're completely time blind, but we're not, because it's almost like we have like an issue with our depth perception for time, because
exactly.
We know it's there, but it's so blurry that even if it's a foot away, it looks far. So we're like, it's okay. I'll just wait, But
So
once it gets really close to the time, we start jumping into it like, oh my gosh, it's right here. I gotta go. I gotta fix this problem right now.
Yeah, and that's where having the goal of fixing it or knowing what finishing it means, and there's some reward if you do. Okay, you get 10 minutes more game time, or a pain, you have to go out and do the jumping jacks, and that can be the motivator. I think for those with ADD, the more quickly the motivator comes on after we do or don't do something, that's more important than, if you tell a kid in 4th grade, if you get a good behavior report and all your math sheets turned in this week, then we'll go out and see a movie Saturday. Well, Saturday is like a year and a half from Monday. Need something for Monday. Hey, or you got 3 problems done on your math sheet. Great. And a lot of times for kids, that's enough praise, that's enough reward. But it is for adults too. Good job. And that's where the accountability partner can help, I think, in not saying, well, dummy, how come you didn't get that done? Get another on that one. But someone, you do it and they say, man, good for you. You did it. That's the reward. Yeah, I didn't let down my friend. I got praise from it. I feel good. That's the kind of thing that can keep us going. And as usual, I think we're coming out of time. Get 2 people with ADHD talking about things we're interested in, and it's easy for that time to go way fast, which is why I have set the stopwatch on my phone, and I can keep track of that. So we've been talking about building habits and routines so they can get you toward the goal that you've decided you're going to do. Not, yes, I'll try. Well, you can try, but if you say, oh no, I can't do that, that's whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. That one's from Henry Ford, not from me. Yeah. So you decided, I want to be able to have this room so I can walk through it. It's got clutter all over.
Exactly. And
then you know what you're aiming for. So maybe your habit is, I'm going to just put one thing away, take it to Goodwill, or I'm going to put it in the garbage, or I'm going to put it where it can be of value in the house. If you do one thing a day, over a month, you've got 30 things done. And it's that just do one that can make the difference. So I think one of the main things we've been talking about, and we touched on at one point, but overall, thinking with intention. Having being mindful of what you're aiming at and doing things with intention. You have to think with that intention of getting there, being aware of what you're thinking about, what you're doing, how much talking you're doing, however that goes. So my guest today has been Nic McLoughlin. He is a master ADHD Now. That's his business, his website, masteradhdnow.com. He is an executive function coach and helps people with executive function issues, whether you have ADHD or not, but certainly all of us with ADHD have those. I will have Nic's website posted on the text with the podcast here. Nic, it's been great to talk with you today.
Oh, you're so kind. And I just want to point out a couple things. I've been basically, I got my bachelor's degree in graphic design. So, for a while I've been designing customized worksheets to support my clients when they need support. So I have a bunch of free worksheets that you can get on my website, masteradhdnow.com. You can just go there, download them. All I ask for is an email just to keep you updated on any upcoming tips and tactics and giveaways that I have. You can get all the worksheets that are on my site, and I have a gamified course you can check out, and I have a 2-day finally follow through masterclass that I'm launching next month. That's completely free.
Good deal. Well, thank you. Good to know about those. And if people can't remember what we just said in terms of those websites and things, that will be on the text. It's the intro to the podcast as well. Glad to have you listening, and we'll look forward to talking with you next time.